Okay, Olu Fashanu is the new tackle for the Jets. Um, so first off, I want to thank Talking Jets for having us on their live stream last night as we reacted to the pick live. Um, we were hanging out with Ryan, Jets Talk 24/7. We were hanging out with Matt O'Leary and Green Bean, and we were able to, hop on with them and give our takes. But we got a little sleep. We got a chance to think about it. And Ray, first off, I want to know if your opinion has changed at all, because I know you were very negative last night. Very negative. So
I wouldn't consider it negative. You know what it is, Pat? And I'll tell you this.
what?
I feel last year kind of put a bad taste in my mouth
Right.
with the Will McDonald selection. So, we were very hyped about getting a tackle last year. Broderick Jones coming out of Georgia. He was the pick. The Patriots trade with the Steelers. And everybody was wondering, what the hell are we going to do at 15 last year? And then we take Will McDonald when you got guys like JSN that were on the board. And everybody was kind of like, okay, well, this pick is more for 2025 because we assumed originally that the Aaron Rodgers, that would cost us our first round pick this year. So we had an inkling that Bryce Huff was going to be gone, and that was more of a futures pick. And that's
Right.
what kind of rubbed me the wrong way. So I feel like that taste kind of rolled into this year where this is another security type pick, I'll call it. And if everything works out the way that we hope it does, he won't see a snap this year. Because if he's seeing snaps, that means, in my mind, that Tyron Smith or Morgan Moses went down with an injury. And, in Peaches and Cream world, that's, you hope to get an impact player that's going to be an immediate starter when you're drafting top 10. That's kind of my thinking where I was at last night.
All right, so I want to thank Nick for hanging out with us for a little bit here. Nick, you're in the building a little bit, and you were team O-line, right?
Yeah, 100%.
Okay, so what was your first opinion, first thought when the pick came through?
Well, I think it really comes down.
I think we lost Nick.
Mm.
Oh no, Nick, you froze up. It's all right. Nick's in the car, so we'll get his opinion when he clicks back in. But nope.
Oh,
Are we back now?
You guys have me now?
Yeah, we got you
guys
now. Go ahead. Yeah,
Perfect.
yeah.
I'm heading to Florham Park, so apologies for the connections. But again,
no problem.
For the Jets at 10, it really just comes down to they were victims of circumstance of what was going on in the draft board. They were trying to move up into the top 10. In reality, a lot of these teams decided that they are very comfortable staying where they were and making their selections. The Giants didn't want to trade back, and they took Neighbors. The Falcons, though, was the pick that really shocked everyone and sort of sent shockwaves around the rest of the draft. By Penix going with the 8th overall pick and the Falcons not trading out for him, it essentially pushed down all the defensive players into the 20s. And it allowed the Jets to be able to take the best available offensive lineman on the board. And, I said this about a month ago on JetCast with you guys. If you look at the tape and you look at how he is as a prospect, I felt Fashanu was the second best offensive lineman in this draft class. Very good hands, very good footwork, just a dominant player in pass protection. And that's what you're looking for in tackles nowadays. So, and I understand the frustration of we need a weapon. But with Aaron Rodgers at quarterback and also with some guys available in free agency, you can easily get a wide receiver in the second and third round in this year's draft who can be highly dependable going into the 2024 season and who can play right away. It's not some unheard of thing. Quite frankly, I would say that the hit rate for mid to late round wide receivers has been a lot greater recently than early round receivers in terms of how the draft classes have shaped out. So you have to trust that Aaron Rodgers as a quarterback can win with any kind of receiver that the Jets bring in. The difficult part is you can't really see him winning if the starting tackles go down. Now that you have Fashanu, you provide the ultimate protection where, God forbid, Tyron, God forbid, Moses go down. you have a perennial All-Pro, Pro Bowl caliber player ready to step up immediately.
Right. My thought was, what is this media? What is the media and the fan base going to do if one of your tackles go down and you're trying to plug holes? Carter Warren, Max Mitchell, and Brock Bowers chipping at edge. Like the fan base is going to revolt because you had a great tackle sitting there that you could have taken. I loved the trade back. I thought there was no reason to not trade back there with JJ McCarthy sitting right there. I think that JD had Minnesota, Denver, and Vegas all on the phone and was like, "Who wants some more?" Because who wants some more, and he just picked
exactly
the best.
What happened. That's exactly what happened.
Best. Yep, and just took the best package that he could. And so you're heading to Florham Park. Are they doing a press conference after day 2 that you're going to be sitting in on?
Yeah, Fashanu is set to speak in the afternoon.
Oh, that's right.
I actually have a separate writing shift to go on earlier, so that's why I wanted to get up early and get over here. Because again, I live in Bayside, so it's about an hour and a half commute for me. At the very least, I'm here, easy to work, easy to roll with everything. But yeah, it's going to be interesting. Fashanu 100% is the right prospect for this team because, Ray, you were saying it, peaches and cream, Smith and Moses play all 17 games. But let's be quite honest here. That's not going to happen. It would be foolish to assume that would happen because these are guys that have missed time over the last few years, particularly in Smith. So do you trust Carter Warren to be the immediate backup, or do you trust Olu Fashanu to be the immediate backup? The answer 10 times out of 10 is going to be Olu Fashanu.
Right. I get that perspective, and the more I slept on it, I understood the pick, and that's something I said live on stream last night was I understand the selection, and I saw that Connor Hughes put out right after the selection was the Jets were trying to trade up with the Giants, who were not interested in the trade back, and then also again where Roma Doomsday was on the board at 8. We're trying to move up from Chicago, but it ended up Chicago actually really wanted the player as well. And one thing that hampered the Jets in trying to move up is they don't have a second-round pick this year, and teams like the Giants, who are kind of under pressure to kind of be really competitive this year, aren't interested in picks in next year's draft. But I agree with the trade back. The one pick, I was listening to WFAN this morning. Greg Giannotti was kind of flipping out, saying, why the hell would Minnesota give up a 4th and a 5th round pick to move up one spot when you knew you could have had your quarterback in that situation? So he feels that Joe Douglas was able to finesse the Minnesota Vikings GM. Whether or not the Raiders were coming and calling in, I don't know. That's a big presumption that a lot of fans have been making, but it is what it is. The pick is made. I'm on to day 2, and that's something I'm sure that we'll get into shortly.
What do you think, Nick? What do you think the Jets' plans are for today?
I asked Joe Douglas the same question last night, and I asked him, with this added capital, does this give you enough room to move into the second round? And he was kind of playing coy, but I kind of took it as a yes. He mentioned the versatility that they now have with 3 4th-round picks and a 5th-round pick. He mentioned the fact that they could potentially trade up. They could stand packed and take some quality players. I continue to say that this is a very deep draft class. So you're going to be able to get some high-impact players in the 4th round and also in the 3rd round. So it's going to be interesting to see where the Jets try to trade up because I still, again, like I said, I expect them to try to move up and get a spot in the 2nd round. But ultimately, it's going to come down to value. I look at Philadelphia with the 53rd overall pick. I look at the Packers, who I believe are at 55. If the Jets are willing to package their 3rd-round pick and a 4th, is that going to be enough to entice the Packers or Eagles to move back? Philadelphia doesn't have a 3rd-round pick. That could certainly be in consideration for the Jets today.
Awesome. Well, thanks, Nick, for hanging out with us. I don't want you getting into a car accident there.
That's all good.
So we're going to have, for everybody watching, we're going to have Nick on Monday, and we're going to do a full draft review, go over everything that occurred. But again, thanks for hanging out with us. Thanks for giving us a little bit of your time, and we'll talk soon, all right?
Appreciate it, guys.
Thanks, Nick.
Thanks, man.
Now, Pat, what's really
All right.
interesting is when you look at these players that are left on the board, a player that I thought was going to slip out of the first round, but I really like. He's 6'4", coming out of Texas. Everybody knows I'm a big Longhorn fan. Anodyne Mitchell. And I think he's going to go early in the second round, unfortunately. But if he continues to slide maybe into the 40s, maybe the Jets could somehow jump up and grab him. He's a player that I really like, can play the X, is strong at the point of attack. That getting a player like him of that type of body size, I feel could really help the Jets move Garrett Wilson into the slot where we saw him be very effective last year, where you now have Mike Williams at 6'5" and Anodyne Mitchell at 6'4" on the outside with Garrett Wilson in the slot. That can completely change this offense. I don't think Ladd's going to be there out of Georgia. He seems to be probably the first receiver off the board in the second round, but we might see a run on receivers. You got Coleman out of Florida State, another big body, 6'4", 215 type receiver. And another position that I could see the Jets potentially addressing as I'm going through my notes right here is this safety position. You have Nubin coming out of Minnesota. It's a very, very thin safety class. And if we go and take a really deep dive into the safety position right now with the Jets, Chuck Clark's coming off a major surgery. We don't know what he's going to be. Tony Adams was kind of up and down last year at the free safety position. He was an undrafted free agent a couple years back that the Jets fell in love with. And in all honesty, Ashton Davis, he is okay to play spot plays, but he's not a guy that you want filling in long-term. More of a special teams ace, I feel, heading into this year. He signed that 1 year, $2 million contract. It looks like it's going to be a $1 million base cap hit right around there. But a player like Tyler Nubin out of Minnesota, more of a ball hawk. Some people had him going, probably in the early second round, but it looks like he's slipping on a lot of draft boards. And it looks like, he's a ball magnet coming out of Minnesota. That's what he's known for, and that's what we need on this defense. And if you don't see the Jets address safety in that early middle round, that second or third round, maybe you get a guy like Justin Simmons, who was recently cut, who's a former, great player. He was a pretty good player last year. The only reason why he was cut was because of his cap hit was so high. Maybe that's a player that the Jets could target after the draft. You look at a guy like Roman Wilson. A lot of people are high out of him. 6 foot, 192 pounds. Out of Michigan. A couple mock drafts have him going around pick 50 to the Eagles. Maybe that changes with the A.J. Brown extension. Maybe they're not looking to stock the wide receiver position then. And it looks like there's going to be a run on corners coming up shortly in the second round. So hopefully that happens for the Jets' sake, as they're not going to be looking at that position.
Let's look a little bit of what the division did. So you got the Patriots taking Drake May, which I think was obvious. They needed a quarterback. I know there was a little bit of talk with them possibly trading with the Giants, but if the Patriots actually had traded out of the pick, it would have been probably the dumbest thing they could have done, because they need a quarterback. It was pretty cut and dry there. Miami takes an edge. They take Chop Thompson, I think it was. Edge out of Penn State, probably had a few battles with Fashanu in practice, so that's an interesting pick. And then the Buffalo Bills. What the hell are the Bills doing? Traded completely out of the first round, and the Buffalo Bills traded away Stephon Diggs and then handed Xavier Worthy to the Kansas City Chiefs on a silver platter. I don't get it.
They're looking to add depth to that team. I think that's what it's about. Paul Riley said it last night on our live Twitter space, was the Bills are looking to add depth. They feel they have the starting pieces, but they lack depth at a lot of positions. So they're kind of going for almost quantity over quality. That's how I look at it.
I get it, but you hand the fastest receiver in the entire draft to the one team you can't get past makes absolutely no sense to me.
Mhm.
I like
Well,
the idea of taking a wide receiver in it, moving up into the second round and taking a wide receiver. I think
mhm.
that is probably the smartest move. And I think somewhere in the fourth round they'll take a quarterback if someone's sitting there for the Jets. I like the idea of having Spencer Rattler if he's there. I like the idea of having Pratt if he's there. We've done a couple videos on it. As far as kind of sleeper picks, if Christian McCaffrey's brother, keeps falling, I could see the Jets probably taking a shot on him. He is explosive when he's got the ball in his hands. For all of these guys that wanted Brock Bowers, I I understand it, right? Olu was not, like I said it in the live stream. Olu is not the sexy pick, but he's the right pick, right? And
Mhm.
Aaron Rodgers has throughout his career been able to elevate the wide receivers around him and has been able to make things happen with average wide receivers. There was a comment that just came in that said, "Do we think OBJ is coming to the Jets?" I wouldn't be against it if we had
I
an.
think there's a very high possibility, especially if we don't trade up.
It all depends on. It really depends on. Um, it really depends on what Lazard's attitude is. Right? Is Lazard going to be able to? Is Aaron Rodgers going to be able to elevate Lazard's play?
Mhm.
And if he can be a legit wide receiver 3, if the Jets don't feel like that's a possibility, then I can see them going for OBJ and bringing him in here on a 1-year deal. Because honestly, all you need is someone with sure hands, and Aaron Rodgers is now, I feel like, going to be able to get him the ball, even if a tackle goes down.
You know, a player that I really like, especially kind of towards that end of the second round, early third round, where I definitely think we could move to, and my fault is Jatavion Sanders out of Texas. He's more of a pass catching tight end. He was actually a very solid blocker at Texas, developed that in his game, but he's a more sure hands kind of player. And a lot of people thought that he was definitely one of the top 3 tight ends in this draft, but he's that big body type, that rumbling guy, secure catcher. That, maybe the Jets don't take a wide receiver. And that's another thing that we talked about yesterday on the live was
Mm-hmm.
a lot of people think it's going to be easy for the Jets to move up. This second round is loaded with playmaking talent. And then that's where I see the drop off happen. So I don't know how many teams are going to be so eager to drop out of the second round, because this seems to be kind of the honeypot of this draft. We keep hearing about all these playmakers and these tackles. There's going to be a big run on them. And if the Jets may kind of be left like they were a few years ago. Remember when the Denzel Mims draft, it was loaded with wide receiver talent, and then we ended up getting the last pick of them all, and it turns out he was a big bust. We saw it.
Got the last pick of them all because Joe Douglas moved down twice. Right.
Mm-hmm. And I see some people yesterday were saying, "Oh, what about trading for Ayuk?" Here's the issue with Ayuk. Ayuk is going to get a massive contract, and I almost feel like
Mm-hmm.
a few years ago we saw it with the whole Deebo Samuel situation. No, he was spotted in New York. He wants out of there. Here's what's so great about the 49ers. They're paying Brock Purdy next to nothing. I feel they're going to get a deal done with Ayuk. They always seem to be able to keep the guys that they want to keep. I don't necessarily think it's realistic. And if he were to be traded, it would be definitely more than a 4th and 5th round pick. Absolutely. Look at some of the compensation from the receivers that were recently traded, guys like A.J. Brown. And another thing is, I don't see Ayuk as a 1 or maybe even a 1A really type. I think he's plays in that San Francisco offense. You have Christian McCaffrey, a great run game. You got Kittle. You have all these great players around him, which allows him to stand out and get those one-on-ones. And that's why I was so like, if the Jets could get a guy like Brock Bowers, it allows Garrett Wilson to be one-on-one. It allows Mike Williams to be one-on-one on the outside. And that was kind of my thinking. So, again, I understand the pick, but moving ahead, we're looking at who's still left on the board. Jonathan Brooks, another position that we should look for the Jets to address in the mid-rounds of this draft is running back. We do not have enough of them. They don't want myself as a Jet fan, and I know there's probably a lot of them out there as well. I don't want Breece Hall running into the back of the center and the guards in short and distance. Maybe they bring in a guy like Ezekiel Elliott. That's been floated about. But, running back is another position.
This team is going to keep Aaron upright and run the ball down people's throats. This O-line is built now to run the ball heavily. And yeah, I don't want, while Breece Hall can be an every down back, I don't want him to be an every down back. I want him to be a home run hitter.
Yep.
So he can run between the tackles, but if we have short yardage situations, I want someone to take that ball other than Breece Hall in situations like that.
Yeah, of course. We saw the Earth, Wind, and Fire worked for the Giants years ago, having a bell cow running back. And another thing is this too. We also got to preserve Breece Hall a little bit. You want to run him into the ground this early in his career, and then you end up paying him in a year or two. You know what I mean? So it's like it's kind of a catch-22. He's the home run hitter, but I don't want him running into the back of a bunch of linemen. I'm looking at CBS. They have us taking at 72 right now. Denzel Walker out of North Carolina, 6 feet 1 inch and a half. The guy is a burner. 4.36 40, 40 and a half inch vertical. Broad jump was 11.2. This guy is a freak athlete out of North Carolina. Didn't have crazy production when I look at the stats, but he's more of a projection type receiver, and that's the issue. If you're not able to go up into the second round, you're looking at that third and fourth tier of wide receiver that, probably won't be day one starters, and that's another issue. We need to get wide receivers. So maybe you go get a guy like Denzel
I mean,
Walker.
we need a little bit of depth at wide receiver. Behind we need a little bit of depth, but you don't need a top end wide receiver because we have him. We have Garrett Wilson, right? So it's okay if we take someone in that third round, or if we can't move up into the second to get somebody that they covet. It's all right if they take a wide receiver 3 or 4 with those later picks. I know you addressed it already.
Falcons are going to kill me. I seen that comment.
I know.
What the hell is going on? You see what Kirk Cousins said? His agent comes out and goes,
they had no
what the
idea,
hell is going on?
They just paid Kirk Cousins. What's the contract? It's 4 years,
$100 million guaranteed, 3 years. Let's not forget, Michael Penix is 24 years old. So that means Kirk Cousins guaranteed 3 years, massive money. So Michael Penix is going to finally start when he's 28 years old. This reminds me
they should have taken Odunze. Odunze was sitting right there. And you had another weapon for Kirk Cousins, and you go with Penix.
100%.
It makes no sense to me. I don't.
And it's the Falcons are the worst run organization right now in my mind. You look at it. Kirk Cousins. You add that to you got Bijan Robinson, Drake London, Pitts in the tight end position. You have weapons galore. Or if you can't do that, they should have drafted a lineman. It makes zero sense. Why are you drafting for the future in a salary cap league where it's almost like at least Jordan, the Jordan Love didn't make sense, but Green Bay's got a history of developing great quarterbacks. It makes no sense for me. Everybody was shocked. And, it's like Bo Nix. Why the hell is he going the top half of the first round? A lot of organizations show why they're so poorly ran, and they continue to make the same mistakes. And that's why, even though I want to kill Joe Douglas for the pick, you can't kill him for drafting a lineman. Anytime you address the trenches, especially with a 40-year-old quarterback, You can't kill the GM for that pick. But some of these organizations like Atlanta, what the hell are you doing?
Right. I know you already addressed it, but we had what does it look like when I show? Oh, that's what it looks like when I show a tweet, a message on the vertical format, because we just started doing these vertical videos. Ray, are you still pissed about the pick?
I don't want to. Look, you saw my live reaction. I wasn't pissed. I was more disappointed. I was more because, we don't get Mr. Sexy. It's like Joe always says. I want the sexy pick.
Right.
I don't want the McDonald's. I don't want the lineman. I want the big time playmaker. You remember years ago when the Giants took OBJ? That was the sexy pick at the time. And we're a win now team, and I am drafting for the future.
You're a win.
I'm just going to call him Joey Future. Future loves
we're a
to
win
draft
now team
for the next year.
We're a win now team, and the easiest way to win now is keep Aaron Rodgers upright. He's 40 years old. He's coming off an Achilles. And if one of our tackles go down, and you picked Brock Bowers isn't going to get open because he's going to have to chip on. He's going to have to help in the blocking.
That's it. If I mean, think about it. We drafted for injury on a Super Bowl contending team. We're drafting for injury. It doesn't make sense to me. Lonzo, you can tell I'm not pissed off still about the pick. I want the playmaker.
I thought you slept on it. I thought you slept on it. You felt a little better about it. Now I'm getting you all worked up again.
Yeah. Well, look, rebuilding teams draft linemen. You draft in the trenches. Winning contending teams, you draft to put points on the board. And drafting a backup tackle who you're like, oh, well, Tyron Smith only played 13 games. Okay, so we drafted a guy to play 4 games next year.
Listen, this doesn't happen. This doesn't happen.
If Kai Becton was a pick.
If you don't blow the Becton pick. That Becton pick set us back so much. The one benefit, one benefit or one glass half full opinion that I heard on Spaces this morning was with having Fashanu, you don't have to pay him for a little while now. Right. If you had Becton, you would in let's say you had Becton and he was your rock. You would have to not only pay him around the same time, but you got Brees, you got Garrett, you got JJ, and you got Sauce that are all going to have to get paid. Now the left tackle is kind of reset there. You can push that money off a little bit and you can get these guys paid and keep them here. I don't think in reality they're not going to be able to keep everybody. Just because the number of people that need to get paid. Right. But at least for the left tackle position, you can kind of push that off a little bit.
But again, think about that, what you just said. All these guys are going to have to get paid, but that's a future thing. I will worry about the future in 2 years. Like as Jet fans, we all know, which we haven't been competitive since freaking Rex Ryan, for crying out loud. Tannenbaum did the right thing. I am sacrificing the future to win a Super Bowl now. That's what the great teams do. Look what the Rams did, for crying out loud. The Rams literally gave away their entire draft class for years, and it got them a Super Bowl because it's very easy to say, oh, sustainable winning. How has that worked for the Jets? Sometimes you got to push your chips to the center and say, you know what? This is the year. This year and next year. I will worry about paying Sauce in 2 years.
What would have you done? What would your plan have been if Tyron Smith goes down for 5 or 6 games?
Well, I said it since the beginning. I still think they should do it. I think the go-to is you bring in a veteran tackle, which let's not act like, oh, well, who's out there? Everybody goes, who? I'll tell you what. Every single year it feels Joe Douglas goes out on the waiver wire, goes into free agency, and somehow pulls something out of his ass and is able to bring in linemen that do serviceable things to this team. Think about Moses. Think about Brown. these guys every year he is able to bring in and then be significant contributors. Joe Douglas has an eye for linemen. That's something, look, I killed Joe Douglas on a lot of things. He knows about linemen. So that's what I would do. I would still look to bring in a veteran because Jet fans, let me explain something to you. It is very rare that an offensive lineman is drafted in the first round and is great immediately. Think of Evan Neal. Everybody was screaming for Evan Neal a couple years ago. He's been god awful. How about this? Andrew Thomas. He was drafted in top 5 by the Giants or 6th overall by the Giants in the Becton draft. He was god awful his first year. There's a significant difference between the college level and NFL. College is quick hitting. They run spread offenses. It's a different game. So linemen need an adjustment period. So that's why I would still bring in a veteran who Fashanu can learn behind Tyron Smith, learn behind Morgan Moses, learn behind this veteran, because believe it or not, I don't trust Carter as a coach. Everybody, that's a big thing people forget. We have one of the worst offensive line coaches, in my humble opinion, in the NFL. So that's why I would still bring in a veteran, because I don't trust that Fashanu is going to be ready day one. If, God forbid, Tyron Smith goes down in training camp, I'm still not sure he'd be ready game one.
All right. I'm going to leave you all with this parting quote from Rich Cimini, and it's about Olu. He's only allowed 1 sack his entire Penn State career, nearly 700 pass plays, allowing a pressure rate of 1.1%, and suffered a blown block at the 3rd lowest rate in all of the FBS. They got a good player. And regardless of what you think, as long as they didn't go defense, whoever they brought in was going to be a positive for the team. I personally, while I would have been okay with Brock Bowers, I don't think that the tight end position is a little undervalued. Okay? The Travis Kelce's of the world are super rare. And this league is very much a spread offense passing league with wide receivers. I am very happy with the O-line pick. I think that the key to winning is keeping Aaron Rodgers upright. And that is my last thought today. So we will see what they will do today. We will see what they will do tomorrow. We'll be back here on Monday. We'll have Nick live, and we're going to go through every pick. You look miserable, Ray.
Get me a fucking weapon. And I don't like cursing. Get me a fucking weapon, Joe.
Well, he's going to get you a weapon. I really think he's going to trade up.
Yeah, here comes D Lyman, round 3.
That's not going to happen. Stop it.
Oh, yeah?
Stop it.
No, that's not going to happen.
D-line is
a safety.
I'd be okay if they took a safety. I don't trust Tony Adams.
I would be too, actually.
And I got to remember Clark's coming off an injury, and I'd be okay.
Aaron Rodgers is going to make people around him better. Like
no infrared. They're not trading up for Jordan Travis.
Infrared, my guy. Appreciate you being here, man.
For Jordan Travis. If he falls in the 4th round, then fine. Take Jordan Travis. I'm not moving up to take Jordan Travis. All right. So, like I said, we'll see what they do today. We'll see what they do tomorrow. Check out our tweets. We'll keep everybody up informed with our opinions. We'll do some shorts to give you some of our reactions.
I'll film my reaction shitting all over Joe Douglas for his 3rd round pick.
All right. Thanks for hanging out with us, guys. Give us a like and a subscribe. Again, we're on every platform at JetCastPod, YouTube, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok. Everywhere that you're on, just look up at JetCastPod and you'll be able to find us. So we'll talk soon. See you guys Monday.
Salute. Go Jets.